The Hulett crane was invented by George Hulett of Conneaut, Ohio, in the late 19th century. He received a patent for his invention in 1898. The first working crane was built the following year at Conneaut Harbor. It was steam-powered and very successful, and many more were built as well along the Great Lakes, especially the southern shore of Lake Erie, to unload boats full of taconite iron from the mines near Lake Superior. John W. Alberg converted the Huletts in Conneaut to electricity in the 1920s. There were also substantial improvements that were made later on their design by Samuel T. Wellman. The Hulett machine was revolutionized for iron ore shipment on the Great Lakes. Previous methods of unloading the lake freighters involved hoists, buckets, and much hard labor. Unloading with Huletts cost only around 6 cents a ton in 1901. And unloading took around 5 to 10 hours on average, as opposed to the day's previous methods for unloading the ships. The lake freighters' boat designs changed a lot to accommodate the Hulett Unloaders, and they became much larger, also doubling in length and quadrupling in capacity for iron ore. By 1913, there were 54 Hulett machines in service. 2 of them were built at Lake Superior. They unloaded coal, and 5 were in Gary, Indiana. However, the vast majority of Hulett cranes were along the shores of Lake Erie. The additional unloading capacity that they introduced promoted a greater than doubling of the iron ore traffic in the 19th to 1912 period. A total of approximately 75 were built, and 1 was installed in New York City to unload, of all things, garbage. The lake's Huletts were used until around 1992, when the self-unloading boats were standard on the American side of the Great Lakes. All of the Huletts have since been dismantled, and in 1999 there were only 6 that remained. The group of 4 at Whiskey Island in Cleveland were the oldest. Another set was used for unloading barges of coal in South Chicago until 2002, and then were dismantled in the spring of 2010. In spite of the Cleveland machines being on the National Register of Historic Places and designated as a historic mechanical engineering landmark, they were demolished in 2000 by the Cleveland County Port Authority, and to enable development of the underlying land is why they were removed. The Port Authority disassembled the 2 remaining Huletts to enable their reconstruction at another site. However, the reconstruction has yet to happen, and in March of 2024, the Port Authority initially chose to demolish the contractor that intended to reassemble one unloader in nearby Canton. But they chose another contract later in the month, which expects to salvage the remaining arms and buckets. The electrically powered Hulett Unloaders rode on 2 parallel tracks along the docks, one near the edge and one further back. However, ordinarily with 4 railroad tracks in between. Steel towers were riding on wheeled trucks supported by girders that spanned the railroad tracks. Along these girders ran a carriage which could move toward or away from the dock face. This in turn carried a large walking beam which could be raised and or lowered as well. This was at the dock end, and this was a vertical column with a large scoop bucket on the end. A parallel beam was mounted halfway down this column to keep the column vertical as it was raised or lowered. The Hulett's operator was stationed in the vertical beam above the bucket for maximum cargo visibility. They could spin the beam at any angle, and the scoop bucket was lowered into the ship's hold. It then closed to capture a quantity of around 10 tons, approximately, of iron ore. It then raised back up and moved towards the dock. The workmen on the docks who operated the Huletts were also known as ore hogs. To reduce the required motion of the carriage, a moving receiving hopper ran between the main girders. It was moved to the front of the main bucket to release its load, and then moved back in again to dump it into the waiting rail car, or out onto a cantilever frame at the back to dump the load onto a stockpile. The Hulett crane could move along the dock to align with most of the holds of an iron ore on the Great Lakes freighter. When the hold was almost empty, the Hulett, however, could not finish the job itself. This is where the workmen came in and entered the hull of the ship and shoveled by hand the remaining ore into the Hulett's bucket. In a later development that came along, a wheeled excavator was actually chained to the Hulett's bucket and lowered into the hull to fill the Hulett. What a remarkable piece of engineering this crane was. Truly, that would have been something to see in our day. However, as we saw, there's none left. I do know that there's the two that are being rusted out in a field, I believe in Ohio, and maybe there's a picture online, or if I'm able to find it here. But yeah, these were definitely a humongous part for unloading the Great Lakes ships freighters as well. And my goodness, what a task that would have been to do all of this by hand, shovel and bucket. Sounds like backbreaking work, but yeah, these cranes, I guess, were enormous and quite a marvel to see. Sure wish I could have seen them before they were all disassembled, though. However, that's about it, though, for this short video of Songs of the Great Lakes. It's not a very long one, but I definitely was recommended this on the channel, and I didn't actually know about this until looking it up myself. So I do hope you enjoy this little tidbit of side history that goes along with the ships and everything that goes into the marvel that is the freighters on these Great Lakes. So next video will be back again with another ship story, so keep an eye out for that, not too distant future. But that will be it for today's video. God bless you, and have a very good night or morning. See you guys in the next Songs of the Great Lakes ship video.